chiropractor want you to do a cleanse?
Get rid of all the toxins in the body.
Why do I care about toxins in your body?
That probably helps in electronic. Your nerve system probably works better.
That's perfect. What are the
Build up stuff.
what are the 3 things that cause a subluxation? Does anyone remember? There's 3 things that cause those misalignments in vertebra that puts pressure on the nerves and then disrupts the entire system. One of them is thoughts. So if you think about stress,
Traumas.
nailed it. Thoughts, trauma, and last T, nailed it. Thoughts, traumas, and toxins are the 3 T's that cause subluxations. So doing a cleanse, yes, I want your nervous system to fire and function at 100%, but when you have toxins that are constantly being bombarded into the system, it'll always off-balance the body, and it will cause those misalignments to happen. So people are like, how does toxins cause a misalignment? So you can do it multiple ways. So it can be one way, let's say we're looking at the tonsils. So let's say we're going to look at that C6. So if you still have your tonsils, let's say you're sensitive to milk. So let's say you go and you take a drink of milk and it goes right past the tonsil. The tonsil is one of the first defenses against anything that goes into the body. So if the body finds milk offensive, that tonsil is going to start kicking out white blood cells, and it's like, hey, milk just went by, kick out some white blood cells, let's make sure we get this cleaned up in here before it gets down into the system. So let's say you did that at breakfast, let's say you did that at lunch, let's say you did that at dinner, and now this feedback from the brain to the tonsil, and the tonsil feels like, hey, I'm really stressed out here, I'm being constantly bombarded by this dairy that keeps coming in the system over and over and over again. And what it does is it will hormonally set the body off balance, and from there, that misalignment of that vertebra can happen. So a toxin can do it that way. It can do it down in the lower bowels. Same way, if we have a leaky gut, it can offset things. Or if the subluxation is there, it makes it so the body can't handle certain things that come into the system. So really it becomes this vicious cycle. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Good. All right, so this cleanse is probably the easiest cleanse you can do. I'm going to be honest with you. And this cleanse is generally made to try to rebalance the gut bacteria within the system. So gut bacteria is super important because right now we have something in our society called Candida overgrowth. And realistically, about 90% of the population has it. They've tested it over and over. It's about a 90%, kind of all across the board, people have it. The hard part about Candida is you get, let's say Candida is bad bacteria compared to good bacteria. But when that bad bacteria, good bacteria balances off and the bad bacteria gets stronger, lowers your immune system, lowers your ability to digest nutrients and then absorb nutrients out of food as well. So immune function, a deficiency, and it can't clean up toxicity the way that it's supposed to. So you become toxic and deficient, and pretty much any disease that's out there, any chronic disease that's out there, a lot of times comes down to toxicity and deficiency. Okay? So going into this cleanse, I have the nose starting out right away. So I'm going to be a downer right out of the gate, but then I'm going to talk about all the things that we can look forward to after that. So some things we're getting rid of is sugar. Sugar is super important because sugar feeds bacteria. So if anyone ever has a bacterial infection, eliminate sugar, won't have anything to feed on. So if Candida, the bacteria that's in the gut, it's a parasite. And parasites need you to live off of, but one of the things that they love is sugar. So if we can starve them out, then we can eliminate them and then start building new bacteria. So sugar is one of the number one things that's gone. And we'll talk about that, sugar versus like fruit sugar and vegetables and all of that, okay? So no sugar, no wheat, no gluten, no dairy, no yeast. I know. No genetically modified foods. And the reason I say that is because foods that are genetically modified, a lot of them have been sprayed with a pesticide. The pesticide is called Bt toxin. Bt toxin, what it does is that when a bug goes to eat that plant, it actually pokes holes in its gut, and it kind of spews out from the inside. So guess what happens when we go and we eat those same genetically modified foods that have been sprayed with those toxins? Pokes little tiny holes in our gut, and we also begin to kind of spew out from the inside. So we're going to get rid of those so we can heal the gut. So GMO foods got to go. No alcohol, no caffeine, no tobacco, no stimulants if possible. No artificial sweeteners, preservatives, or additives. And then only water. Please make water your number one primary thing that you drink. If you want to do a little bit of tea, go for it. you cannot get rid of all of these, I think the number one thing that's really hard for people is caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant, but if there's one thing where you're like, I don't want to get rid of caffeine, it's not as important to get rid of caffeine if we're trying to balance out that gut bacteria. But the reason caffeine is important is that most of us have grown sensitive to it because we consume it so often. If there's any other foods that you think you might be sensitive to, let's say you eat, I don't know, pickles, and they make you fart every time you eat them, you're probably sensitive to them and you should probably get rid of them. So if you think you're sensitive to anything else that is not on this list, and some people know, some people have been tested, some people don't know, but if there's anything that you kind of ever wonder about, I talk to people a lot about gluten. They're like, yeah, I've always thought gluten bothered me. Well, why do you continue to eat it then? So if you ever have any of those feelings about any food that you consume, try to take it out for the next 10 days, because when you go and reintroduce it back in, you'll know if it's bothering you or not. You'll know for sure. So kind of having a little diary is a good idea to keep too. All right, so now we went through all the downers, all the things we can't have. So let's look how we're going to kind of set up meals and how you're going to do this. The first thing you want to know is you're going to have twice as many vegetables as you have fruit. And when it comes to fruit, I have this page. So everyone should have got emailed this, and if they didn't, make sure that you grab it from the back. But this page goes through percentages of carbohydrates, so how easy they are to break down into sugars, the more complex carbohydrates, sometimes the more sugar that comes with it. But if you turn to the next page, there's fruit on there. And the fruits that have stars next to them, so apples, cantaloupe, grapes, papaya, pears, prunes, strawberries, watermelon, those are all things that are higher on the glycemic index, which means they break into sugar faster. If you have one of these, try to limit it to one every 2 days. Something like a berry, something low on the glycemic index, berries, grapefruit. You're probably okay if you have that one time a day. Don't try to put it in every meal. Try to just have it once and then have that kind of be your fruit craving or your sugar craving savior. And the same thing, it's because that Candida, it's gonna mess with your head a little bit. As a parasite starts dying off, it chemically changes and alters your perception. So as it dies off, you're gonna be craving the most ridiculous things that you've never even wanted before in the past. But it's that parasite that's telling you what it wants, okay? Don't feed into it. Don't listen to it. But that is one of the things. So if you get through one of those periods and you're really freaking out, but you hadn't had any fruit that day, some berries, a grapefruit, something low on that glycemic index. So you can literally get on the computer, look up glycemic index fruits, try to keep as low as possible on there, okay? And then the sheet that I gave you, anything that has an asterisk, try to once, maybe every other day. Vegetables, for sure, vegetables all day long. You can have meat in this cleanse, because for me, it's not about, meat is hard to break down, yes. And if you want to do a cleanse and take it further, probably coming off of meat for a while is a really good idea, because it is so hard to break down. It would give that digestive system a little time to rest. I just didn't want to take everything away from everybody, because it's hard to stick to when you take everything away right out of the gate. If you get to the end of it, and a lot of times people get to the end or they'll get 7 days in and they feel great. They're like, I feel great. I don't, because your cravings start to change then, right? It's like, I don't really crave the things that I was craving before. If at that time you want to take out meat, go for it. Give it a couple days off meat. And then when you go to introduce foods back in, see how you do, because some meat does better for people than others. So I didn't want to take it all away right out of the gate, because balancing out gut bacteria, you're going to be okay on meat. But if you get to the end, you're feeling pretty good, stuff has changed, take it out for a little bit. Give your digestive system even more of a chance to kind of heal and remove toxins as much as it can on its own. Organic produce is recommended because it's higher nutrient content. And then same thing, steer clear of the GMO foods. If you can do about 50% of your meals raw, that raw food is going to bind toxins and it's going to leave nutrients. So if you do eat your fruit and vegetables raw, I love it. Try to have it with a fat. Because you have water-soluble and fat-soluble vitamins, try to have it with a fat. So even if you're taking some fish oil with a meal, or if you're having a salad, try to put an avocado in it. If you're having whatever it may be, eggs are still okay unless you think you're sensitive. If you think you're sensitive to eggs, try to take them out. But eggs are okay. Coconut oil is okay. If you're doing a salad, olive oil on the salad, some apple cider vinegar, coconut oil on the salad, I'm good with all of those. Okay? So on the same sheet, I have fats that are good. I think it's under miscellaneous. Yeah, miscellaneous. I don't take away butter, and I don't take away butter because it has so many nutrients in it. So that's the one dairy thing I don't take away. So as long as it's raw butter. So butter, coconut oil, olive oil, flax, hemp seed oil, apple cider vinegar is okay. Balsamic vinegar is okay, but please look at how many grams of sugar are in them, because some are higher than others, and some of them add sugar to them. So try to make sure that you check that out before you just automatically use that on everything. There's a reason that when you go to use it, and sometimes it looks like straight syrup. That means there's a high sugar content in there. Okay. So fats are super important. They're a healthy part of this entire program. So make sure that when you look at fats, don't avoid them because it's what's going to keep you full during this entire thing. Okay? And then avoiding high glycemic foods, which we already talked about. Okay, so drink plenty of water. If you're going through this and you start getting headaches, which is really common for people, as that candida starts dying off, as those parasites start dying, they'll create essentially a toxic load within the system. If your body can't get rid of them fast enough, they'll begin to build up, and then people will get headaches. They'll get headaches, you'll get super fatigued and really tired, probably around day 5. So a lot of times, has anyone started today? Okay, so if you start Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So for you, probably around Friday, Saturday, you're going to have a crash. So if you, I don't know if you're working that night. Okay, good. So Friday or Saturday night, you'll get to a point, usually about 5-6 days in for people. If they've done it before, sometimes a little earlier. But if this is the first time they've done this, usually about 5 or 6 days in, all that bacteria begins to die. And as it dies out, your body, it's going to take you out. You'll get to a point, it might be 7 o'clock at night, and you're like, I have to go to bed right now. And you'll immediately want to go to sleep. You might sleep 12 hours, but then when you wake up that next day, the rest of the time out, you're like, oh my gosh, I feel amazing. I remember the first time I did this cleanse, I was sitting and I had x-ray analysis right after lunch. Terrible. Who puts you in a dark room right after lunch? And then you're supposed to pay attention and you're looking at x-rays, awful. But I remember the first time I did this cleanse, I remember sitting in class and looking around, and everyone was so tired and they're so fatigued and they're so drowsy. And I remember I had just gone through my transition over the weekend, and so I still had 4 days left. And I was sitting there and I was like, I'm so wide awake right now. I'm so wide awake, and all these people are tired, and I'm sitting next to you. I'm so bored. But I'm sitting here and I'm awake and I'm engaged. And I felt like, oh my gosh, this is what it's supposed to be like. I should be able to go home, have lunch, and come back and still feel like I can perform and do what I'm supposed to do. So for so many years, that afternoon crash that people talked about, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I get that. And then when I stopped having that, it was like a whole new world had opened up. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it's supposed to be like. So look forward to that. 5 to sometimes 7 days in, you'll have a crash. So I don't know how to tell people to plan for that. If anyone's starting today, you can plan for it Friday night or Saturday night. If you start tomorrow, plan Saturday, Sunday. If you start after that, just kind of plan it out, because I don't want you to go to Monday, and Monday it's all of a sudden 7 o'clock at night, and then your alarm goes off at 5, and you're like, I could still sleep another 4 hours, because you probably should sleep another 4 hours. So when you go through that and you have that transition, just kind of know that that's going to be there. So tons of water. Make it interesting. If you're not going to the bathroom probably once an hour, you're probably not drinking enough water. Because you'll find out really quick as they start dying off, especially in the early stages, you'll find out really quick that a toxic headache is no fun. And water is one of the best ways to keep that kind of at bay. Okay?
What about activated charcoal?
Activated charcoal you can use, that's more binding heavy metals.
Okay.
This one's more about balancing out gut bacteria. So balancing out gut bacteria. If you're doing anything else with this that's used to help release heavy metals so that you can bind them, go for it. I don't think it's going to bother. I don't think it's going to interrupt anything like that.
Okay. Yeah. Antranex has helped me.
Antranex is really nice too.
Yeah, with when you start getting those headaches from the die-off.
Yeah.
That and a Epsom salt bath.
So Antranex is is a supplement by Standard Process. Anthrax is nice too because it helps with sensitivities. It helps with any allergies that people kind of don't really know that they're sensitive to. So if you're going through, if you're trying to clear out a bunch of stuff, sometimes taking Anthrax through that, it helps clear out anything that you're sensitive to. So when you reintroduce it, sometimes people have a higher tolerance for it, so it won't bother them for a while. I go through the amount of meat. Try to keep meat to the size of your palm. Try not to go overboard just because you feel like you're hungry during this time. So there's no point where it says you can't eat. You can eat the whole time. Try to keep it to fats. Meat, yes. If you're doing a salad, try to put meat in the afternoon if possible, because it gives your digestive system a little more time to clear stuff out in the evening. Keep it easier to digest at night. So if you're going to have a big meal, try to have it at lunch if possible. I'm not saying that's possible for everybody. It's not usually possible for us too. Our bigger meals usually at night. But if you can, try to have it during your lunchtime. Try to buy organic, free range, antibiotic free everything. Eggs are huge. Egg is like the perfect protein, but you just got to make sure it's coming from a good source. Baking is preferred over grilling or anything that's fried. So if you can bake it, try to bake it. If you can slow roast it, if you saute it a little bit, that's probably okay, just not overdoing it. If you have any issues with inflammation in the body, so if you have any arthritis that you already know about, staying away from nightshades is going to be huge, because nightshades are going to bring in inflammation. So a nightshade's a pepper, it's an eggplant, it's a citrus fruit sometimes. So having that orange or that grapefruit, even though it's lower on the glycemic index, just see if your joints get a little achy because your body's clearing toxins. And so if those joints start getting really achy, try to steer clear of nightshades too. And I have that in the sheets, what to expect sheet too. And same thing, people with chronic fatigue syndrome or fibromyalgia should also avoid citrus fruits for the exact same reason, just that inflammation. Okay? Food sensitivities, I told you if you think that you're sensitive to something, try to eliminate it for the 10 days. I don't suggest taking probiotics during those 10 days, and the only reason I don't is because we're trying to kill off bacteria. Probiotic, if you put it into the system, it's going to want to feed and grow and mature. And if we're starving all bacteria out, it's going to be really difficult for it to feed and grow and mature. So that you don't get double die-off, which is not going to be pleasant, because sometimes die-off can cause loose bowels. So to not have that 2 times and get that double whammy, try to stay clear of the probiotics right now. I do suggest taking multivitamin during this time, a fish oil during this time, vitamin D during that time, and if there's any digestive issues with raw food, a digestive enzyme, a papaya enzyme. We have different enzymes here. I have one that's a full-fledged, like multi-level enzyme, and then I have one that increases the actual stomach acid. So if you have a type A or a type B blood type, stomach acid is usually a little lower. Hydrochloric acid is usually a little bit lower. If you're an O, it's usually pretty high, so you're probably okay. But if you find that when you eat a lot of raw stuff, it makes your stomach kind of gurgle, it's hard to digest, you feel like it doesn't move through very well, look for an enzyme and let me know, and we can talk about that on a private level. No packaged foods. And if you really feel like you have a food sensitivity, one of the best things I could point you towards, it's called QBC-plex, QBC-plex, and it's by a company called Solar, and you can get it at Whole Foods, or you can get it at Natural Grocery, you can get it wherever you want. But it's an antihistamine, and it's an anti-inflammatory. I'm going to pull some of that inflammation out. But same thing, it's used to help retrain the body if you have any sensitivities. So it's just there to give you nutrients and vitamins, yes, but it's also there to pull out some of that inflammation in the body, helping make it a little smoother transition. And then when you go to reintroduce foods, again, you'll kind of, as you slowly bring stuff back in, you might notice that helps that transition too. So it might make you less sensitive to foods, and then you can realize that you can have them a little bit longer. Try to go for dry grains, beans, nuts, seeds, anything like that, and I feel fine about frozen vegetables as well. Again, make it convenient. If I can tell you one thing, during a cleanse, I always try to make it boring. I know it sounds terrible, but I'm good with 10 days of having similar things. Like if I only have 2 breakfasts that I go back and forth through, I'm happy. If I have a couple salads that I go through, I'm happy. If I have a meat and a vegetable at night, I keep it super simple, super boring. And I know that sounds not fun, but it's only 10 days. Fair? Okay. The only other thing I want you to look forward to, the only other thing I want you to know is I want you to keep all your elimination sites open. So because you're detoxing, all elimination sites have to be open. So that's urination, which is why we talked about making sure you have water, you're getting up, going to the bathroom at least every hour. You have urination, you have defecation, which is going number 2. So if you feel like you're constipated, anything like that, let me know. And I have a supplement that's an herb that helps get rid of stuff too. But same thing, you don't want toxins building up in 2 different areas, lower bowel, and then as the gut's trying to push things through and clear stuff. So if that's an issue, also talk to me after, let me know, and I can help you out. Urination, defecation, perspiration, try to sweat a little bit every day. So if you are a deodorant user, try your darndest to not use an antiperspirant. Antiperspirant, one, has aluminum in it, so when you go under the underarm, aluminum clogs your pores and you can't get any toxins released. So if you're a person that sweats from the underarm, if you're a person that sweats from your feet, if you're a person that sweats wherever it may be, try to keep it open. I know it's not going to be super pleasant. Yes, you might notice smells coming out of you. That's literally toxins coming through the system. Urination, defecation, perspiration, respiration, breathing, thank you. Breathing is huge. And so anybody that was at Andrew's class the other night, he taught you how to do a detox breath. So how you do a detox breath, and I'm not saying you have to do this, but getting out and moving around is more so what I was talking about. I want you to get out, I want you to move around, I want you to feel like you're getting some oxygen into the system. But a detox breath, if you want to take one, you take a huge breath in, so everyone's going to do it together. Take a huge breath in and be ready for this. Huge breath in. You hold it for 20 seconds. Give me a second, give me a second, give me a second. If you have to breathe out sooner, I understand. 20 seconds is hard if you didn't know it was coming. Good. 3, 2, 1, and you push it out. As you take that breath, the body takes that oxygen and it will, as it moves through the system, it literally pulls out toxins, and as you breathe out, it pushes everything out. If you get to a point where you're tired, you're fatigued, you're groggy, it literally can reset your entire mind. It's really crazy, just a simple breath like that, but it can reset everything and make it completely different from where you were just at a few minutes ago. But more so respiration, it's about getting out, moving around. And the last thing, if you are a female, we have one more elimination site than males, and it's menstruation. If you're still menstruating, if there's any hormonal things that you take to skip a period or skip menstruation, please, 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 please do not do that during the cleanse. Because if there's one thing that will make this 10 times easier, it's using that release and having that as another gateway to eliminate toxins. So please do not skip a period during a cleanse, okay? Let's see. Does anyone have any questions? I know that was quick because we only have 30 minutes to talk about it. I try to have everything as comprehensive as possible. The first part is the elimination part, so what we're getting rid of, everything we talked about, stuff to look for, organic produce, butter, fats, all of it's on here. Drinking tons of water, salad dressings we talk about, trying not to skip meals throughout the day. If you're someone that's going to do the QBC Plex, try to take those 1 hour before you eat, if it's possible. So if you think that you're sensitive to some sort of a food and you go and you get that supplement, try to take it 1 hour before you eat a meal. I know that makes it a little more difficult, but if you can, 2 capsules of it, and then wait an hour, and then you can eat whatever it is you were going to eat. When you get to this one, if you can stick to this, vegetables 3% or less, carb 3, 6, if you can stick here as much as possible, awesome. But I understand you have to venture over into a 7. I understand that you have to venture over into a 20 or a 12 to a 21% carb. Just try not to live right here. Try not to live on chickpeas the whole time and hummus the whole time. Try not to live on artichokes the entire time. So if you can, try to stick as much over here as possible. Healthy fats are going to be the best thing for you to stay full, besides meat. Fruit, anything that has a star, 1 time every 2 days, and that's it. No more. If you're looking for fruits and you're trying to mix it up and get crazy, low glycemic index. Get on the internet and it'll tell you every single one. Berries is usually your best go-to. Protein, I did everything for protein. Try to buy organic, free-range antibiotic, because as you put that stuff into the system, as you start clearing out toxins, sometimes it can make it more difficult. Grains, I'm good with quinoa. Quinoa is a full protein, so if you are to the point where you're like, okay, I don't want to eat meat, but I still need kind of something to hold me over, quinoa is a perfect protein. If you do rice, again, rice, amaranth, and buckwheat, they will cause sugar spikes, so try to keep those limited, okay?
What about oats?
You can do rolled oats. They're usually low in sugar, and you're usually okay. The hard part is a lot of people are sensitive to them, just because they're in so many random things now. And so a lot of people are sensitive to them, but you are good. That is one that I go to for breakfast. I find out that it doesn't bother me. Dr. Andrew can't do oats. Like, really upset his system. And so they just are not something that bother. I have examples of meals. I have get creative, but as you can tell by my meals, I do pretty much the same things, like over and over. I send out recipes. Best idea as well is to make a huge thing of some sort of soup. A vegetable soup, a soup that has chicken in it, and go back to it and use it. Like every lunch, you know you're having soup, or every dinner, you know soup's coming out. It makes it easy. Makes it easy, especially if you're working, trying to get through the day. And then the last one I sent out was recipes. Does anybody have any questions?
So no honey.
No honey, nothing that's going to cause a sugar spike. Because that's immediately what they're going to want to go and have a little frenzy on, is those sugars that are right there and ready to be used. Any other questions?
I've heard that stevia doesn't raise your blood sugar. Is that true?
Stevia doesn't raise your blood sugar, but one thing stevia does is it still signals your pituitary gland. And so the body will still think, between the pituitary and the thyroid, the body will still think that you just consume sugar. And a lot of times when that happens, it'll make you want to consume more sugar. So it'll get you through that point, but then it's going to make you still want those things. So even if you do stevia, okay, keep it small, because trying to get rid of that craving is one of the biggest things that we're trying to do.
You said we can have some teas.
Yeah, if you do tea, try to do decaf if possible. But green tea, I'm good with green tea too. It has lower amounts of caffeine, but green over black. Good. Anything else? Good luck. This is, I mean that in the nicest way. This is probably one of the easiest cleanses you can do. And then if there's anything else that people are interested in after that, a gallbladder cleanse, a liver cleanse, if they want to do a juice cleanse, now that the bacteria is balanced out, because juicing has really high amounts of sugar, but what it does is it gives that digestive system a break. So going no protein for a little bit, anything like that. If you have other things that you want to do and you want to take a step further, talk to me. Let's discuss it, and I can give you protocols for other things too. I can send them right to you, and you can look at it, see if you want to do even more. Good? Good. Anybody else? Awesome. All right.